take a moment, and if you're not already, find yourself in a comfortable position. And imagine that you're looking at two scales, like the volume and the balance knobs on the radio of your car. The one is right in front of you. It's the one you can see most clearly, and it's the one you probably use the most. It's the knob of an internal experience you don't like. Maybe it's worry, an urge, a sadness. Perhaps it's discomfort, embarrassment, or shame. And that knob can go from 0 to 10. And that knob is usually the one that brings people to do some work because it feels like that one's too high. It's at a 10 and I don't want it there. So I'm going to try to pull it down. I'm going to go to therapy and see if they can help me pull that down. But there's also another scale, and it's often pretty hidden or harder to see than this other scale, this internal experience you don't like scale. But this other scale can also go from 0 to 10. And we're starting to notice that maybe this scale is also there. You've been able to start noticing it or bringing it around so that you can look at it. And it really is the more important of the two because it's the one that makes the difference and it's the only one that you can control. The first scale might feel like it can be controlled, but we found that it really can't be. And the second scale is called willingness. It refers to how open you are to experiencing your own experiences when you experience it, without trying to manipulate it, avoid it, escape it, change it, or something, doing something to it. And so when this internal experience that you don't like comes up, and it's at like a 10, and you're trying really hard to control it, make it go down, make it go away, then you're unwilling to feel that feeling, to feel that internal experience. In other words, the willingness scale is down at a 0. But that's kind of a hard combination. The internal experience is way up at a 10 and the willingness scale is way down at a 0. It's kind of like a ratchet or something. Ratchets and wrenches work kind of by when you have one set up, no matter how you turn the handle on the wrench, it can only tighten the bolt. It's like that. When your internal experience is high and willingness is low, the wrench is only set to make that internal experience tighter, to make the bolt tighter. And anxiety or worry or sadness, this internal experience you don't like, can't go down. And that's because if you're really, really unwilling to have some kind of internal experience, whether it's anxiety, discomfort, an urge, then the internal experience is something to be worrying about. It's as if the internal experience is high and willingness drops down, and then the anxiety or this internal experience that you don't like kind of locks into place. And no matter how you try to move the wrench or turn down this knob, no matter what you do with that tool, it just gets tighter. So I'm going to ask you to shift your focus from the internal experience scale to the willingness scale. We've been trying to control worry, sadness, unpleasant internal experiences for a long time. And I think we can agree that it just doesn't work. It's not that we haven't been clever enough, that we haven't come up with enough options or found the right one. It simply doesn't work. So instead of doing that, instead of engaging in this really fruitless battle, let's turn our focus to the willingness knob. So unlike the unpleasant internal experience scale, which you can't move at will because it's going to do its thing, the willingness scale is something that you can set anywhere. It's not a reaction. It's not a feeling or a thought. It's a choice. And up until now, it's probably been set pretty low. And by choosing to listen to this recording, you may have actually thought, hey, I want this to stay low. I don't want this to go up. But what we're going to try to do here is set it up a little bit higher, maybe all the way up to a 10. And if you do this, if you set willingness high, what will happen to your internal experience is exactly what you're hoping. And you can kind of hold me to this promise, but if you stop trying to control this internal experience, the internal experience knob will go lower. Or it will be high. It's going to kind of move around. I can promise that. And when it's low, it's going to be low. And when it's high, it's going to be high. Until it isn't high anymore. And then it can be low again. And there really just aren't good words for what it's like to have the willingness scale set high. I can say one thing though, and that's that your experience says the same thing. If you want to know for certain where the worry or internal experience you don't like scale will be, then there is something that you can do about it. If you set the willingness scale super, super, super low, then anxiety or worry or sadness are going to start to go up. And then that wrench is going to lock in. And you'll have plenty of that internal experience that you don't like. So that will be pretty predictable. And it'll be predictably high, all in an effort to try to get it low. So if you move the willingness scale up, the internal experience is free to move. Sometimes it will be low, and sometimes it will be high. But in both cases, you will keep out of a useless and really frustrating, maybe even traumatic struggle that can lead you only in one direction.